Welcome, everybody. I'm so excited. It is 2024, and I hope everybody had a great holiday. Um, Merry Christmas holidays, Happy New Year, all of those wonderful things to everyone. Let's get started. I'm going to share my screen. Welcome to our community circle night. It is also where we're going to be talking about finding happiness in 2024. And I'm Crystal Kaufman. If you don't know me, I am one of the owners at Personal Best Seminars. We also have Heather Jones. Introduce yourself to us. Heather, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hi, my name is Heather Jones, and like Crystal said, I'm one of the owners of Personal Best Seminars. I'm excited to bring you this presentation tonight, and yeah, that's it for me.
Awesome. Yeah, and I'm also an owner, and both of us are Creation Circle leaders, and Heather's also the coach with the company as well. So you're just being filled with all this greatness from Personal Best here, starting off our 2024. All right, so what is the purpose for tonight? It is to discover, experience, and share happiness and to learn how to find happiness. So where do we find this elusive happiness? Oh dear. Okay, in all seriousness, bring to mind for a second, when did you last experience happiness? Just think about it for a second.
Like it could have been over Christmas, maybe it would have been about a child graduating or at a grandchild's game. When was the last time you think you experienced happiness?
Yeah, was it today, over the holidays? Was it, you can't even remember the last time you were really happy? Now think about what's the cause of your happiness? What caused the happiness? All right, so is happiness a destination or a thing? So was it about you got some money or power or fame or possession or maybe this awesome gift over Christmas? Was that the happiness? Or is it a way of being? Is it about family, time with family, sharing things with family or your friends, or perhaps work that serves you, maybe your purpose? It's the way of being. Like what made you happy? Well, here's the thing. If the happiness really was the destination or thing, we are constantly chasing it, constantly chasing that dollar, that thing, that car, that house, whatever it is that made you happy. And if happiness really is, what if it was a way of being? Well, here's the thing. Well, why aren't we happy all the time then? All right. I want you to consider this. We aren't happy all the time, mostly because we don't know the tools how to be. Look at this man, for example. He has all the tools right before him. He thinks, oh, all I need is a ladder to get over the wall to be happy and find that happiness on the other side. Yet he doesn't know how to use it. So if he stacks the ladders, maybe he'll be high enough. He can reach over, he can just see it, but he still isn't reaching it. So most of the time, people aren't happy or aren't achieving their things because they just don't have the tools. They don't know how to use it. So if somebody could teach them how to use this ladder, maybe if you used it up vertically instead, he could climb over the wall and find the thing that he's looking for. So if you learn the tools and skills to find this happiness, then maybe then you could actually control your own happiness. And do you think that's true? That if we can really learn the tools, do you think you could actually control it in your life? Or is it based on a thing or experience or something that's happening? Well, tonight we're here to talk about it and figure out how we can find that happiness and thread that into our life. I want you to think for a second, you're like this fish. And here at Personal Best, think of it like the fish you are in the small pond just before the first bowl. And at Personal Best, we are considering leaping you into the new big pond, unleashing your true potential. At Personal Best, we like to discover new waters, new territory, things that you didn't know before, things that could bring into your life to make it more happy or more successful or whatever it is, the thing that would fulfill your life. We provide guidance, tools, anything you need to help gain lasting success in your life. And that could be in your career, it could be family, relationships, all of those things. And how we do it at Personal Best is we teach with seminars, we have workshops, we have online classes like we have here. So every first Wednesday of the month, we have a free, what we call community circle, and everybody is welcome, whether you've taken a course or not, you're welcome to come attend. And we talk about our pillars of the month. And we also have memberships with these pillars as well. We'll get into this in a second here. We also have memberships on these pillars, and we talk about this topic, this pillar of the month, and how we can start integrating new ideas into our world and maybe embrace and adapt something new that we can enhance our life with that. So what am I talking about with these pillars? So every pillar is a different month. I'll let Heather explain this here. These are their keys to happiness. Heather, can you tell us more about the pillars?
Yeah, thanks, Crystal. So what we have at Personal Best Seminars, like Crystal had spoken about, is we have a free meeting at the beginning, first Wednesday of every month, where we're going to go through one of these pillars. So always in January, we'll do pillar 1 all the way to pillar 12 in December. And so this is a free membership, this one. And what we're going to be focusing on this year is just the keys to happiness. What does it take to actually have happiness as that way of being rather than that destination that we're constantly reaching for? So we have the membership that's free to join. You guys are all a part of that right now. And every month, if you want, you're free to join. We also have another part is sometimes people like to do a little bit of a deeper dive. Some people like to do a little bit of a deeper dive into these pillars where they can do what we call creation circles, and they work with the group of 12 in these pillars every month. And so we do have Allie on board. Allie's here tonight, and she's actually one of our creation circle leaders. She's just starting as our creation circle leader. So we want to just quickly introduce you, and then we're going to dive into pillar 1, which is I Brace Personal Accountability. And so in this pillar, we're going to focus on how our victim experiences lead to some unhappiness, and how when we embrace accountability, how we can create some more happiness in that. So Allie, if you are available, introduce
I am
yourself.
available. I just want to make sure you can hear me. I see my little square lighting up. So, okay, good stuff. Hi, as Heather said, I am Allie Wilkes. I'm really excited to get started on this journey with Personal Best. And yeah, I really look forward to doing this creation circle. And I'm really excited about the opportunities that this is going to be creating for whoever is joining us.
Thanks, Allie.
My pleasure.
So let's dive into pillar 1. Let me just see if I can flip the slides. I don't think it's working for me, Crystal. So pillar 1 is I embrace personal accountability. So let's have a look. So personal accountability, we're going to address 2 different ideas or different definitions tonight. We're going to talk about first victimization. So what is victimization? We look at victimization as really the opposite end of the spectrum of accountability. So victimization, the definition we're working with tonight is anything real or imagined, internal or external, that removes or distances power, choice, and action from an individual. And so I'm going to address or talk a little bit more about that. And so let's look at this idea of real or imagined. If victimization can be real or imagined, here's some examples. And so really is like this example of you could be cut off in traffic. And so when you're cut off in traffic, sometimes you can get really upset and feel victimized by maybe whatever it is someone else did. So that is a real experience of where you may feel victimized. Also, maybe if you had something stolen out of your car or your barbecue, like it's something actually tangible that happened. But we also have victim experiences that we imagine sometimes in our head. And so these would be examples like, have you ever been at a dinner party and felt like maybe you weren't included or nobody really talked to you? And so you have this kind of conversation in your head happening about how you were left out, and you create this victim experience. You know, it's the same thing. It's like, you know, if you want to ask someone out on a date or maybe just out for coffee, and in your head, you're already imagining what it is that they're going to say. Like they're going to say no, they're going to reject me. And it creates this victim experience, right? So that's two ways, the real or imagined. But we also have internal ways and external ways of creating this victimization in our experiences. So an internal example could be calling yourself names because like you're overweight, right? And so you really just do that to yourself and you victimize yourself from your words. It could also be misreading relationship cues and assuming the worst inside of that relationship. So, you know, like I've often had conversations with people and I'm like, gosh, what did they mean by that? And that didn't really feel good. And I think that this is what it was. And so I make up this story in my head about what it was that they meant rather than just getting clarification. And that could victimize me or someone else when you do something like that. And there's also external experiences of victimization where it could be like, let's say you're working at your job and you're dealing with a customer that's really rude, but it like triggers you and you feel like upset about it. Or it could be like somebody, say maybe you have a different culture, religious or social views, and someone doesn't respect your actual like religious views, culture views, or social views, whatever those are. Maybe they don't even understand fully what it is, but they don't respect it by your definition, and you can be victimized by that experience as well. So we have a lot of ways that we can create this unhappiness in these victim experiences. And so what I wanted to just point out too is that just because a situation is real, it can be real and external. It can be real and internal, like it can actually happen inside. It can be real and external. It can be imagined external and it can be imagined as internal as well. So these things cross and can be a mixture of both. So lots of different ways to unintentionally victimize ourselves, but it's just what happens every day. And really, when you're living in victimization, is that it really prevents you from taking any type of flight in your life. So what I want to focus on moving forward today is like, how do you create a different experience? Like, what's the pathway there? Like, I understand, like, it could be just nice and easy to say, oh, okay, I won't be victimized. But it actually can be challenging to get there. So I'm going to give you a couple of steps to support what that might look like. And then with this is like you can actually apply some of these things to your own experiences and see where you go. So if we look at the idea of accountability, so in order to get out of victimization, we need to get into accountability. So what that is, it's a device, a framing device that provides the power of choice, participation, and co-creation of the experiences and results in your life, whether they're real or imagined. So I'm going to define this more or talk about this more so that is easier to break down and understand. So the first step into this is to accept that you participated. I had choice. I co-created the situation, however it was, and I don't blame me or I don't blame anybody else. So I don't carry energy on it. And so that sounds like that could be a really big step for some of the victim experiences that you may have had. So here's a little tool that can help you with it. Is when in our personal best level 1 is we deal with this chart a lot, and we call this the resistance cycle. The bottom part of this chart is the resistance cycle. So first thing is that we have an event, any event in our life. And I just gave you in the real and imagined and internal and external, lots of events. Those are all events. They're all neutral. And what's interesting is that we attach the significance to the event based on our belief system. And so I want you to think of a divorce. When people are actually getting divorced, usually one spouse wants the divorce and one doesn't, right? So one will approach the other or however it works, right? But in the case where one wants it and one doesn't, is that they have very different experiences for the same situation. So how could that be? Well, it's because the event itself, the divorce, is actually neutral. And it is what spouse A and B have inside of their belief system that actually is creating the experience of either they want it or they don't. And so one might be hopeful leaving the marriage, and one might be really upset leaving the marriage. The event itself is neutral. And so if we play this through a little bit, is let's just imagine now is that spouse B is upset. Spouse B is upset about it leaving the marriage. Spouse B is upset about leaving. They're triggered from something in their past. They have something in their past. So has happened. It could have been that they had divorced parents when they were younger. It could have been that they were fired from a job. It could have been that they were bullied in school, but they had some form of experience of either rejection or failure, any number of beliefs that could have been triggered that is now creating their experience. And so that past experience is being projected into the future. That's where at the bottom of the chart, we have the past dash the future. It means that that past experience is being projected to the future, which is now creating this automatic reaction about this divorce situation. So if we go on. So now that spouse B is triggered, then what usually happens, and this is the sad thing about divorce, is that
Bragging about your room again, are you?
what usually happens is that they want the other spouse to experience the pain that they're experiencing. And so they're going to create some kind of challenge in this divorce, whatever it is, whatever is running in their belief system. And then they begin this cycle so they can send spouse A through this resistance as well. So that usually comes in like disagreements with the division of things, all of that stuff. But ultimately, at the end of the day, both spouse A and B are triggered into this resistance cycle, which then creates this war, this divorce war, right? Is where things go. But once one spouse actually realizes that their belief system is what is being triggered, the event itself is being triggered, and what their experience is coming from the past, it's coming from their belief system, and they can just surrender to and accept that divorce is happening. And so it's my choice from this point how I want to behave moving forward. I can continue in this cycle, I continue making this situation miserable for everybody, or I can just start picking up the pieces and making the best of it and taking my lessons from the situation.
Or in other words, just choosing to be happy.
Yep, exactly. Just choosing to be happy. So if we go back to just this idea of surrender, it's to accept that I participated, because really everybody, if it's a divorce situation, both people participated in it, both had choice, both co-created the situation, no matter what that was. But to go from a place of I don't blame you and I don't blame anybody else, and I'm ready to just pull the lessons from this, this is where surrender is. But when you actually get to the point of, just wait for my next slide to come. So when you actually get to the point of surrender, is what you've done is rather than continuing to spin in this cycle of resistance that's at the bottom, is that now you're able to live on the top part of the chart, where we can actually get to growth. And if you see the second one there is accountability. Once you've accepted that the situation is the situation, is then you can get to an accountability part. You can get to a part that's more powerful and actually leads to so much more happiness. And just to help with this, we've got some examples here coming. So I want you to consider in your victim experiences you have, what lessons did you learn from it? What lessons did you have from your victim experiences? And then how did you participate in that? Because we all had some form of participation in all of these experiences. So I'm going to give you an example from my life. So as an example in my life is that I was a single parent for quite a while. is I was in a relationship with my ex. And what didn't work about the relationship at the time is that he brought a lot of baggage to the relationship, or we would classify it as baggage. So he had a situation with his ex, he had 2 kids. And with these 2 kids, they, of course, took a lot of his time. I was 24 years old. I wasn't willing to accept what he had going on in his life. And so I did get to a point of where like, I'm actually just like, I'm going to bow out. I'm ready to move on. But then as it happened is that about a month or so after I really ended the relationship is I actually found out I was pregnant. And so then now I'm still upset about the breakup. Like I'm still not over it. I'm definitely not quite to the point of accountability yet. I'm fully in victim as to his baggage didn't make this situation work. And now I'm bringing another child or a child into this situation. Like, how do we do that? Right. And so what happened is that I had this event where I didn't feel like I was the priority. And so it put me into resistance. So now I have a son with this man, and my belief system says, well, okay, he actually puts time into his kids because he did that before and he took time out of a relationship to do that. And so now that I have a son is that it's almost like it's my leverage in my victim experience, right? Because now I can use my son to like manipulate him is almost like it's actually kind of what I did at the beginning. And so we decided that, oh, let's just like, go on this like vacation together, even though we're not together anymore. And like, let's just like show our son this united front. My son was like 9 months old. We went on vacation with a bunch of friends. And I decided that on the way home from vacation I asked him, could you just take care of our son, do the diaper changes, the feeding, all of that stuff. I'm also at that time going through my level 1, 2, and 3 process is like our level 1, 2, and 3 with personal best seminars. So I'm starting to become aware that I have this need that was being filled by time with him. So I felt like I wasn't enough in the relationship. I wasn't enough in really life altogether. But I'm starting to regain my power in that, or regain my experience of myself, of being enough. And as I'm driving home from vacation, is that my ex had this experience of completely not interested in parenting our son. He didn't want to do the diaper changes or the feedings. And he had this negative attitude and energy, and he was back talking, and he just very visibly did not want to be caring for the child. And I sat back and I just realized and I witnessed the situation. And I thought, like, actually, I accepted in that moment. He doesn't want to be a dad again. He's already done this. And that's okay. Because what I do know is when his kids get older, is that he does kids really well. Like he really adores his kids. And so I decided that day I was never going to ask him to do anything for me inside of his relationship with his son. And I let their relationship just simply be their relationship. And now my son is 15 years old. He has a great relationship with his dad. Whenever his dad's around, because he does work out of town, they communicate on how they want to see each other, what they want to do. They have that father-son bond now because really what his dad wanted was a friend and a buddy or someone to go to the movies with and hang out with and make jokes with. He didn't want to do diaper changes. He didn't want to do bottle feedings. He didn't want to do getting up through the middle of the night. And so I was able to get all of that with my son. I was able to experience all of that part of motherhood that I didn't want to lose anyways. And so I'm just like, well, that's just great. That's a great way to be and look at it. Had I continued on that path of manipulating him to be involved with his son and continued that resistance experience that I wasn't enough and I only could be filled in enoughness with time with him or him time with our son and having him live those experiences, then I wouldn't have actually experienced this true happiness that I have now, where I actually can just be the observer to their relationship and see how happy my son is. And he didn't have to grow up knowing that his dad didn't want that part of it. I never forced anything. And so it's like really the true happiness came from working inside of myself and then it allowed me to accept my situation and move forward into my lessons. And so Crystal has an example as well from her life. This is a really big concept, this victim and accountability stuff. And so we have these examples to really support you in seeing the pathway and how it goes there. So Crystal, would you mind sharing your example?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you for sharing, Heather. So my example stems around finding my biological father. So when I was a teenager, about 15 or so, I finally heard the news that I was adopted, that my father wasn't my real biological father and that he adopted me. And I had three younger sisters, and they were all his natural children. They were much, much younger. They were 10 years younger than me. So they were little, and they had them as a result of getting married and having kids together. And what I would witness all the time is that my dad getting along really, really well with all of his real daughters, and me and him fought. We were like oil and vinegar. We fought all the time. And I assume now looking back, I thought I was a know-it-all, snotty little teenager. I thought I knew everything, and I was pretty smart whipped. And I thought I knew better than him. So I had this figured out. I thought that fathers don't actually love, they only love their biological children. They don't love their adopted children. And when I would ask my mom about this, and she finally told me, and I asked her, she said, she didn't say much. She really wasn't willing to share it, but she just said, "Oh, your father didn't want you." At least that's what I remember from the story. So my belief about all of that is that biological fathers love their kids. My real father didn't want me, and my life would be so much better, and I would be happier. I wouldn't be miserable with a stepfather if I could just find my real father and be loved like him. If I could belong in that, because I didn't belong with my sisters, I would belong if I found my real father. Because I had a belief that, again, fathers love their biological children. That's it. I felt really rejected, betrayed. I felt like I just was abandoned by both of my fathers. My real father didn't want me, and my stepfather didn't want me. I just didn't belong at all. Felt completely unloved. And then feeling that unloved, it just, I just always felt like I just wasn't good enough. I don't belong. And it just continued on in this experience of it just reinforced it every day, watching them get along so well and me just fighting so bad. It just caused a lot of bitter and resentment. So fast forward that, and about age 35, I started doing work with Personal Best seminars and did a lot of healing work of forgiving parents and just to come to the terms that they did the best that they could. They provided a decent life for me. My dad chose to adopt me, and he did a decent job. I began to really understand that, parents like my dad probably didn't wake up every day and thinking, how can I screw up Crystal's life today? Is that, honestly, he was really trying the best that he could. And it was at the same time that I was also started to watch a lot of TV shows and movies about genealogy and ancestry. And I just really need to know who my biological father is. But I still had a lot of energy around it. And I still felt like maybe if I could find that, then I finally belong somewhere. It would solve all my unhappiness. It would figure out the pieces. And I started doing even more work. I really started to realize that like the belongingness was just what was really missing in my life. And I started to get closer with friends and the community and Personal Best and creating quite a bond and belongingness with friendships there. When I finally felt ready, I talked to my mom and I asked her, I'd like to have this information. And she was finally ready to tell me. She divulged, it's really that my father didn't want me. He never even knew about me. So all this time I had been making up this story that he didn't want me, but really he actually didn't even know. She just made a choice, and a very brave choice, to raise me on her own and not disrupt their life because they weren't really a couple. And so I decided I wanted to contact him, but again, I still had some really negative energy about it and not feeling well. What if I get rejected? All of these things. And when I came to terms, it took a couple years before I was ready to reach out. When I came to terms that I was okay approaching him when I finally started to start using the tools I learned at Personal Best to heal and to feel good enough about myself, that I was good enough, that I belonged no matter what, that I was okay no matter what my biological father said. I reached out to him, and on my 40th birthday, which happens to be right at Christmas time, emailed him. We finally connected, and he just said this was like the best present ever. He has a daughter and a grandson, and he said really what made it different, because he was skeptical. He goes, it was my energy and approach, because I really said to him, that's like, I'm not looking for you to fill a missing gap or the father I've never had. I just want to know more about you and be a part of your life. So because I was able to find that happiness and that belongingness first coming to him, it felt like it really was this beautiful symbiotic reunition, uniting between us. And now I have a beautiful relationship with both of my fathers. I've said to my stepfather, you're my dad no matter what. It doesn't replace, you aren't replaced because I found my biological father. You chose me, adopted me, and you've done all the hard work, and you're forever my dad. And I have a great relationship with my biological father, and there's enough love and room for both of them, and even more ways to belong. So yeah, I guess I should say too, is that really, I wasn't it didn't mean that I was happy once that happened and found that. It was about finding the happiness first within inside of me, and feeling enough, that I was enough as I was, without needing that validation from any father or any family member or any friend for that matter, that I belonged enough to me. So it was those tools that I learned that found the happiness, really.
Yeah. Awesome. Thanks for sharing that, Crystal.
All right, so just those are two big examples that it really doesn't whoops, let me just get to the screen here. It really happiness is an internal job, and it's not necessarily about that thing. So it wasn't about once Heather's kid's father did all the parenting stuff, that became the happiness, or once I found my biological father, that meant happiness. It was really coming to terms and peace within inside. So let's talk about then some other examples. So let's talk about some like famous examples, like Steve Jobs. He was fired from Apple. Does anybody know this story? Is that he first created it, and then he was fired. He goes and starts Next, and this company starts thriving, and this company starts building up. And as that's happening, then Apple is struggling. They're struggling so hard to figure it out. They're not making their sales. They're and Next is starting to surpass them. So what they end up doing is acquiring Next and putting Steve Jobs back, and he gets his position back. So he could have been extremely victimized from his firing from Apple, and instead he chose to be happy and find his way, and again it merged back together for him.
Yeah.
The story of Michael Jordan. Does anybody know this one? He was actually cut from his high school varsity basketball team. He tried out. He was only 5'10" at the time, and they picked his friend instead that was 6'3". And he was determined not to let this happen, not let this victim story determine his happiness. And he practiced every day before class, and he ended up trying out next year, and by then he hit his growth spurt, so he was then taller, much taller, and just a little bit taller than 5'10", and he then made the team. And well, you know his story from then on. Oprah Winfrey, she had her first news anchor job, and about 7 months in, she was told that she was not cut out for TV, that she was never going to make it, and they cut her, and that was her opportunity then for something else to happen. She met longtime pal Gayle King, and then they started working together, and now she's the phenomenal success that you know her today. The last one is Walt Disney. Did you know he was fired from his job? He was rejected. He was told he has no imagination or creativity when he worked for a news article or newspaper. and was let go. And he said, to heck with that, and kept going and found his way. And now Walt Disney is just like, yeah, I don't even know, way more than $1 billion industry.
Yeah, lots.
So
And
these people
tons
didn't,
of movies.
right? Now their own app. These None of these people needed those things to be happy. In fact, they found that and created their own stories from it. So let's think of just everyday examples where we can turn our victimization into our accountabilities and choose happiness out of it. So perhaps even failing a test is studying harder for next time. Like the lesson is that maybe wasn't prepared enough and I'm going to study a little bit harder. Or maybe you lose a game, you're playing a game of sports, hockey or golf, practice your skills for next game. Maybe it's taking a lesson. Receiving a no when selling your products. I know there's a lot of entrepreneurs online here. So how many times have we been rejected when we sell or offer our services and someone says no? So maybe it's about refining your pitch or working on, maybe you have a better offer that you need to give, or something just needs to shift a bit. What about even having absent parents growing up? And so then you've grown up to be an independent person. You were like, I'm never going, I know how to take care of myself. Like, I don't actually need anybody. I don't need parents to be a strong, successful adult. What about a case of being bullied in school? That now turning that into a mission of being kind, compassionate, and empathic adult, and helping other people see the path and see the light. So there's everyday examples of ways that we can shift that we don't have to stay in that victim or that unhappiness, and find the thing that makes us happy. Maybe it's showing that we need to learn from that and use it as a lesson to grow. So where in your life are you already living accountability? And where can you improve? So think about that for a second as we roll into 2024. This is great energy and time, and this is why we focus on it, is that it's time. It's a new year, new thoughts, new ideas, new goals. Where could you improve? Where could things change? I know some of you stories online, you've started a new home, a new relationships,
Mhm.
new experiences. Some of you are taking the level 1 coming up. So all these things are like ways to improve our life, and how can we look at that to choose our happiness out of it? What lessons are we learning? All right, so we have some more tools here. I mean, this is just one great example or one great tool that we did. We talked about it tonight, but remember we said that we have these community circles and we meet every first Wednesday of the month. You're welcome to join us every month. They're free for everybody, whether you've taken a course or not. It's not about that. This is about learning more from the pillar. Like the pillar for this month was embrace personal accountability, and learning more about that pillar and how we can incorporate it into our life, just like we were talking about. Pillar 2 next month is I create more than I consume. So we'll give you the sign up for that at the end. Actually, everybody will be emailed after this to be invited to ongoing community nights, and just mark your calendar, first Wednesday of the month at 7 o'clock. And next, I did slightly hint at there's a level 1 coming up. And what the heck? Oh, sorry, pillar 2. We'll move on. What is this level 1? Heather, could you share more about that? It's coming up January 24th to 28th.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks, Crystal. So January 24th to 28th is, we have the level 1. So I'm the facilitator for the level 1 process here. And we are going to go Wednesday, Thursday, Friday evening, all day Saturday, all day Sunday. Throughout this level 1 is that we dive more into discovering and experiencing and really allowing our participants just to share who they are and what they discover. We have 33 different exercises where you can actually meet your belief system. And so the great thing when Crystal and I both took this level 1 process is that she learned beliefs about herself that caused her triggers with her dad and her stepdad and where she didn't fit in. And I learned in my belief system is that I've got some beliefs rolling at this time about like, I'm not enough. And that in order for me to like feel enough, or I constantly thought time with the people around me is what filled me, when in fact, I needed to create that enoughness inside of me. And so it was the starting process that launched my awareness into what was causing that trigger for me to continually go in the resistance cycle for for the relationships in my life. So level 1 is all about awareness. It's just, it's the entry process for this. And so what that looks like on the next slide, if I can get it. Actually, I think Crystal, you have remote, hey?
There you go.
Yeah. And so like I was saying, is that we have our belief system is the core of our experiences, just like it was for Crystal, just like it was for me. Our belief system is also could be the core of our unhappiness and victimization. It's when we become aware that it is our belief system itself that's creating this resistance, that's creating this resistance. It was when we become aware of that is our first step to just surrender and accept our experiences as they are, accept the experiences as neutral, and then start to come up with what are the lessons in this? What am I meant to learn from this? What is my path's journey? Is that's what we do, is look at that stuff. So as far as registration is, we have been having this program on sale for $197 up to this point. We do have a coupon code for this program of PB1 promo, and we have selling it for $97 right now for this 5-day program, which is a phenomenal program. There isn't actually a program that I know out there that is better at supporting you in really just meeting who you are. Because when we're stuck in this resistance cycle is when we don't know what's triggering that, is we don't actually know who we are. We don't actually have control over ourselves or our experiences in this moment. We let those unwanted or undesirable or limiting beliefs control our experiences. And so this registration in this level 1 will get you to the point of being more aware of that so you can start to do something more different with it. So we have a couple other things that we have coming up to offer. Is that we also have, I talked about the creation circles that do a deeper dive into all of the pillars. Upcoming is we have a creation circle starting on January 18th for the first time for a group of the first 10 people for that circle, where we do a deep dive into all of these pillars every single month. And like I said, the level 1 happening in Edmonton in January. And then Allie, you guys all met Allie earlier, is that she's starting her own creation circle in February of 2024, where she's going to be leading people in that same support. So what we do have, if you want to get registered in this level 1, is we actually have 10 seats left. This is a phenomenal deal. And actually, when I first took this program back in 2006, this program was sold at $997. This being sold today for $97 is a $97 that can change the way that you view yourself in life, is actually priceless. It really is. So we have 10 more seats only available in this course in January. And we have the promo code of PB1 promo for that code. So I do believe that Crystal is going to post that link in the chat if she hasn't done that already, where you can get yourself registered. This QR code will also scan that for you. And then we also will probably be emailing this link out. And so do what you can, get yourself registered. There's only 10 spots left on this code.
Yeah, you betcha. Does anybody have any questions here before we go? I'm gonna just get this code and put it into the chat so that if you want to sign up, or you know anybody in your life that you'd love to gift this to, or if they want to hear this presentation, we have a recording of it, or it is shown on our Facebook page. Tell them to come check us out on Facebook and find out more information there. I will put this link in the chat for you. There you go. Anybody have any questions before we finish our call for today?
Lindsay says, thanks, ladies. Lindsay coming all the way from Mexico. Hi, Lindsay.
Yes, good to see you. Thanks, Erin. All right. Well, I miss you
We
too.
miss you too, Lindsay.
Lindsay is one of our post grads and now living her life being happy in Mexico. So yeah, great start to the new year. Awesome.
Thank you, everybody.
Okay, guys. Then
Nice to
have-
hear your voice, Lindsay.